Hey, y'all, and welcome back to Perspectives. I'm Patrice Bobo-Miles, and I am excited today to have this guest with me. I know, every time I have a guest on, I'm excited because every time I have a guest on, I'm excited. So I have known Philip for a number of years, and he has quite the story. And it is really a story of faith. It is a story of courage. It is a story of resilience. And it is a story of, I like to say, victory.
Mm.
So, with all of that being said, I have built you up big time, Philip. So, why don't
Yeah,
you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you
yeah,
do?
sure. You did build me up. Hey, everyone. I'm Phillip, and I am a branding and marketing strategist, and I am also the host and executive director of now in the third year, the Phillip Show, which is really has been such a blessing to me personally. And on the show, I am able to help to amplify the voices of inspiring people, inspiring brands, inspiring businesses, and really just put out there that everybody has a story, no matter what it is. Each story has the power to impact somebody else. So that's kind of what I live right here in Yellow Springs, Ohio. I'm originally from Ohio, and I did the whole United States tour of places to live. and and now I'm home and I live in, yeah, I'm here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yep.
So, Philip, we met how many years ago?
A million.
I'll take a million,
It
but
was,
we look
it
good.
was quite a it was quite a long time
We
ago.
look good for old folk.
Thank you.
Yeah, I met Philip. There was a point in time in his life where he was a makeup artist
Yes.
for a cosmetic company, a well-known cosmetic company, and he was great at it. I mean, he was so good at what he did. But while he looked like this really happy-go-lucky guy, I know that there were some things going on in the background. You want to share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So when I talked about the that was a long time ago, and thank you for aging me just to let me
You're welcome.
hmm,
You're so welcome.
but my I was a makeup artist and I'm still a makeup artist. I'm just not the professional makeup artist that I used to be. And my journey is really about identity and being comfortable, or a journey of being finding where comfortable is in who I was. I'm going to try and not use general terms and just personalize them to me. I do that a lot, and it sounds like I'm not taking anyway. Um, I was on my personal journey to find out who Philip was. And while I was on that journey, there were so many things that were like, well, you can't be that because we don't like that. And a lot of times it was really difficult. I started, I went through addiction for a very long time. This is the first time that I'm really speaking about it. So if I sound scattered, it's because I'm nervous. And yeah, I
Take a deep breath for me. Take a deep breath for me.
okay.
And I want to know,
Yes.
what was your drug of choice?
Sure, I was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. I grew up very religious, so there was none of that in the house. When I got to middle school and going into high school, there were these. Everybody would call me gay, and I didn't really know what that meant until I did. And then what I did know about it was we don't like that, because it wasn't a term of endearment. It was kind of slang and kind of derogatory. And my voice is very high. I was always very thin. My hair is very curly. So people would always either call me a girl, my voice sounds like a girl, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not alone in that journey. But what that did for me was leave me in places where I felt out of place. I felt othered, and you kind of hit the nail on the head with everything looks fine on the outside, and I became very good at that. I became good at casting myself in the play of life as this character And I was a horrible casting director because that character was unbelievable. I just couldn't live up to who I was even pretending to be. I don't know. So
Mhm.
from there, I went on and on and on. And yeah, I just skipped about a million pieces, but now I'm but now I'm here. Alcohol took me down a lot of different roads. Um, I've been in rehab 3 times. I'm not excited about that, but I'm here. So I'm excited that I can say it and that I'm here to say that that was in the past. I know a lot of people and a lot of my students, I was the director of one, and a lot of my students didn't make it. So I know that there's a blessing in being able to sit and talk with you today. So,
Mhm. Rehab is quite the journey, though, in itself. And for the things that I've read and people I've spoken to, um, you don't always, you almost always, I'll put it that way, end up with a second stint, at
mm,
least in rehab,
yeah.
coming out of rehab. So, what was the catalyst that had you complete rehab and then end up back in rehab?
Sure. I don't want to use cliche words. Doing the work, um, I know how to perform. I
Mhm.
know what to do. I know what to say. I know I could be very well scripted right here, and I'm trying to be authentic because I know what to say. I know what to do. I know how to sound impressive. And that's a really great mask for me to put on.
Mhm.
So in my rehabilitation time, I was very good at doing rehab. I'm very good. I excel at a lot of things. I'm good at it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got
Yeah.
this. What are the bullet points? What do I have to do? Okay, and boom, we're done here. The
Mhm.
challenge was I'm still the same Phillip, and I don't have the responsibilities or the expectation when I'm not in rehab to perform anymore. So now I have to come back to, well, who am I? It's like, okay, so now what do I do? And that became it became very difficult because the things that I was trying to figure out weren't resolved. And I don't know if anybody has a journey where they're like, and now I'm just me. I don't know if anybody does that, but I really needed that.
Mhm.
My process was in a Christian rehabilitation program, which was really great for people with life controlling issues. It can be a myriad of things, but it was Christian based. So I, growing up really religious, gay, you just can't. You're just not allowed. So I had that backpack on of you're carrying this, but you have to pretend that's not what you are, who you are, and you're not allowed to go down there. And I'm like, I'm already in hell. I don't know how to get out of here. So I'm in this Christian rehab, and again, I knew what to say. I knew what to do. I'm a worship leader, so that's not the hard part. The hard part was me thinking that it didn't work. The hard part was going to the altar and praying, God, change me, change me, change me, change me. And I was the same. The hard part was, ooh, I'm about to cry. The hard part was me being a director, the men's program manager, and leading people to Christ and leading people to life free of, addictions, free of life controlling issues, but I'm free of sin, if you will, and on the way to heaven, but I'm disqualified and I can't go. But I can lead you there, but I just can't, I'm not qualified to go. So tell me how Jesus is when you get there. I'm not allowed in. So that was really it's tearing me up inside. It's just like I just don't know what to do with that. I don't know what a remedy is, any of that. So and to be fair, I still have those thoughts today. It's hard to shake these things. When you're younger, you grew up this way, and when it comes to the Bible and Christianity and all these things, you always wonder, well, what if? Well,
Mhm.
what if I'm wrong? What if I'm right? What's happening was, it's like, well, what if you die? What if that? Because I was on my way to giving up. I was on my way to stop I didn't feel it was. I was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I was exhausted. It was very difficult for people to realize that unless they knew me, because I've always excelled in everything that I've done. I've always been in the front representing something, and there's something that you can see that I tangibly did, and you can tangibly say that looks great. Very true, and I'm a mess. You know, it's like
I
I'm a
do.
mess. Huh?
I said I do. I do.
Yeah. So through all of that, I do music. Being a makeup artist, so I'm just in entertainment. Um, I'm in the closet, out of the closet, back in the closet. The closet door has no more hinges. We can't. You know what I mean? Like we can't. Like we just can't. I just can't. And I had to really get to the point, and I'm not advocating for one person's life. I'm not advocating for another lifestyle. I had to get to the point where I had to stop making excuses for who I am. I
So
was
let me
out.
ask you this. Let me ask you this. Yep.
Well,
No, let me
it's like
ask you.
I'm this. It's like I'm this, but you know,
No,
I
you're Philip. You've always just been Philip to me. But let me ask you this.
thank you.
At what point in time did you finally come to love
Mhm,
all of the parts that are Philip? Even the
mhm,
parts that at one point in time you felt were othered?
sure. So I was in Florida, and and this is going to be the journey to that, to me, that realization. I was in Florida, and I had left. I completed my rehabilitation, and I went down to Florida, and I was living there. My brother lived there. He had a brand new niece and all of that, and I was there. Now, again, I'm out of rehab, right? And you can make your own decisions. I'm not held by any expectation. I'm not going to get fired from I'm not setting a bad example for the students, and I'm not doing all of that. So now I go back to cosmetics, and I'm working in cosmetics, being a makeup artist. And one day after work, and I started to kind of slip, start to get back into some very familiar patterns. I start to feel scared. And the place that I would go when I would feel scared was the place to help me not feel scared. It's like, okay, I don't know what to do. So now I need to numb this because I'm not familiar with what to do to go through this.
Mhm.
So one day, I was meeting some friends after work, and I was like, yeah, I'll meet you over here. So we went somewhere and we had drinks. And then I was like, well, I'm going to go see my friend. They're a manager at this club. I'm going to go over here. So they were like, oh, okay. Next thing I know, I'm getting pulled over on the side of the road. I'm getting pulled over on the side of the road. And clearly I had been drinking. To fast forward, I ended up getting a DUI, and I was arrested. So the very next morning, I wake up, and this is a whole nother story. But the very next day, I wake up, and you have all this television time, and I go downstairs. I said downstairs like I was in a condo. Girl, I went to whatever that thing was. I said it like I just went to the great room. I went downstairs, and I was looking at the television, and they were flashing this emergency and what had happened over the TV. And there had been a shooting at Pulse nightclub,
Mm.
and they were flashing all of these people over the on the television, and I knew a lot of those faces. And the reason why that was so important to me was when I left my friends and said I'm going to a club, that's the club I was going to.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew then that as much as I tried and as much as I was confused, there's a purpose for me,
Mhm.
and as much as a lot of things were confusing, and I'm in this place, I'm like in the pit in complete jail, but all of a sudden jail saved me.
Mhm.
So it was then that I started to just kind of really think about my life, think about the back and forth, the trial, the tribulation, and say, you know what? Okay, so if I'm going to be all saved like this, there's something redeemable about me because it didn't have to be this way. So that
Mhm.
started me on my journey to kind of figuring it out. And I'll tell you, I've been on that journey for a very long time. And it wasn't until recently, like 3 years ago, with this show, the show that I have now, it was part of like my final chapter of not pretending. It was my final chapter of not hiding. And by hiding, I mean not being uncomfortable with who wakes up in the morning, not being uncomfortable with who the person sees across the street, not being robotic and planned with how am I sitting? Well, who's watching? What am I walking? Did I say this? What's my voice? Literally, that's like the narrative in my head. How did you do this? Da, 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 da. When I started the Phillip Show, I said I was terrified. By the way, terrified, and it's not because I was never in front of a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I was never in front of the camera as me.
Right.
I've always represented a brand. I've always represented a project. I've always represented another person. And this time I said, when I was getting the show together, I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. And even down to the name of the show, I said, I was like, I don't know what to call it. I started to build a brand again. And I was like, well, I'm going to call it this, and then it can do this. And then all of a sudden I noticed that I was hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I have to keep myself accountable. So the most accountable that I can make it is call it by my name. Mm-hmm. It's the Phillip Show. So every time I say welcome to the Phillip Show, I'm reminding myself, be yourself. It's totally okay. You're fine. We're good. And all of that. So that was a long way to tell you, I think Phillip's pretty cool now. I think he's pretty cool. And it's a journey. It's like life is layers, and I'm glad that I've peeled off so many. And there's always so many more to go. But I'm in a place right now where I can appreciate those things that I tried so hard to not be. I can appreciate my humor. I can appreciate my laugh. I can appreciate my voice. I can appreciate, and these things I did not appreciate. Everything people told me that they liked about me, I completely hated. Hated it. And it's just like, because I spent my life trying not to be that person. And
how hard is it to be in a body, to be a person that you absolutely despise? And how do you come around to, I love this person? How did you get there? How did you get there?
I'm getting there. Let me say that. By getting up, I'm about to cry. By having friends, by listening to other people. I was able to talk. I was asked to be a speaker on World Changers and History Makers this past week with Angelica Norton, and she reached out and asked me if I would be a speaker on there. And one of the things that I was talking about was sometimes, and I was really talking to myself, sometimes you have to believe what other people say. And for me, I've never had anyone discourage me from doing anything. I've never had anyone say they didn't believe in me, that I could do this. I've never heard anyone say, Phillip can't do that. I've never heard it. And I'm not saying that to be conceited. I have never heard anyone in my life tell me I cannot do something. And I don't know if that's arresting. I don't know what that is. But the only person in my entire life that told me that I cannot do something was me. Immediately when I hear that voice, I know that it's not the truth. Immediately, but it took me a long time. And daily, I have to say that, but it took me a long time to understand, like, that voice is not true. So one of the things that I shared, and I have to share it with myself, sometimes you have to listen to the other people. You have to listen to the other people that when they say, hey, you belong in the room. Hey, you are awesome at this. Hey, how did you do? I'm just like, oh yeah, well, blah, 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 I suck. And they're like, wait a minute. So when you're asking, like, how do I get there? It's a daily process. I know that within me, I'm familiar with that voice and I'm familiar with that response. And I've learned that my initial responses to pretty much anything is the wrong response. It's just because I'm familiar. How are you going to get somewhere with the same road? My responses have been the road that I'm on because I'm familiar with that scenery. So somebody, hey, Phillip, do you want to do it? I'm like, no, thank you. And then immediately I'm like, that's because I'm afraid. Yes, I'll do it. So um, so learning, and I don't know if there was a light switch that said, I like this dude. It was really um, listening to people. Like, I'm listening to them say, oh, Philip, I'm like, and I'm pretending like I'm somebody else. Like, they really like him. Let me find out. Like, he seems really cool. Let me, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I, and what can I intentionally let go, identify and intentionally let go of? What is it? And a lot of it's fear. A lot of it was fear of discovery. A lot of it was fear of, I don't know, being seen. I don't know. A lot of it was because of identity. And there was so much shame in everything that was wrapped up to me, in being Philip. Everything. There wasn't one particular part. And I don't, and it wasn't about a lifestyle. It was an existence.
Mm-hmm.
It was an existence. Whether I was dating a girl, I'm still the same person. I still
Right.
act the same way. I still in my mind, when I walk into the room, I'm still like, oh God, please don't talk about it. Please don't talk about it. Okay, Philip, how did you say good morning? What did you do? How are you sitting? Don't sit like that. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whew, listen, bruh's tired.
I was about to say that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And interestingly, when I'm coaching, coaching some of my clients through some of this stuff, we talk a lot about your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you comfortable? And I'm comfortable here, but I want to do A, B, C, and D. And you start to move out of where you're comfortable into A, and then it starts to just be a little uncomfortable, and you slide right back into your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
because you would rather be stuck in a comfort zone. And I don't mean you in general. I mean, I'm speaking generalities. Just,
yeah.
People, a lot of people prefer to be stuck in a comfort zone than to push to that level of uncomfortableness
Mm-hmm.
in order to give yourself the opportunity to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know, and I'm certainly not the person who coined this phrase, because it's been said for years and years and years and years and forever. But when you're looking to change, whether it's a career, whether it's your own self-talk, whether it's your journey, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because as soon as you get there, you're allowing yourself the opportunity to continue to grow
Mm-hmm.
beyond where you thought you wanted to be, and go even farther than that. And, I have had the privilege and the heartbreak and the joy of watching you fight with yourself for all these years. Now, I certainly was not a front row, there in the front row, but
You're in the middle seat on the roller coaster.
I was. I mean, but I've known you long enough to watch this journey, and so I remember young Philip.
Mm-hmm.
I remember young Philip, and I thought, this kid's lost.
Mm.
I remember that. And so to get to this point in life and know that, you're not that lost kid anymore.
Mm.
You made the conscious choice to not just get out of your comfort zone, but to stay out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
And in doing that, you've discovered who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You've discovered to appreciate all the things that at one point in time you did not at all. You despised that they were part of your person. I've had a front row seat to watching the Phillip Show blow up. And full disclosure, I was a guest on Phillip Show a couple years ago, I think.
Yes, you were.
I look back, I was like, oh yeah. And now basically a front row seat. I'm getting to watch you step into the greatness that was always yours when you were ready to fully embrace who Philip is and all of the things that Philip can do.
Thank
Just
you.
like you finally decided to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, life is, and one thing that I always have to learn And I always have to remind myself. And I said this, that was there is no, I don't want to use the word end point, but you continue to grow
Mhm.
and you continue to learn. I continue to grow and I continue to learn. And there is no failure in, I don't want to say try again. I want to say the agains, but there's a lesson to be learned. And then tomorrow we'll learn the next lesson. And tomorrow we'll learn the next lesson. You know, I think for me, a lot of times I was trying to put the puzzle together and say there's no more puzzle.
Mhm. There's
You know,
always a piece of the puzzle.
right. I'm just like, well, I'm not perfect. So there's that. Boom. You know, so even one of the things that I've done, and if you look back on almost all the things that I've been involved with, whether it's beauty, whether it's music, whether it's this show, whether it's in writing, and even in marketing, I always err to what's going to inspire me to try again.
Mhm.
I always, somebody noticed that when I was writing a song, and this is before I was being a worship leader, and they were like, "Well, is this a Christian song?" And I was like, "Well, no." Then they were saying it was so inspirational. And then even if I didn't know that was the thread of everything that was like through my life, I can look back on lyrics and be like, "Ooh, I remember this, and I really needed to make it through this situation." Or even with my brand, Be You, like those are messages that I needed to look to see, so I just made some clothes. You know what I mean? Like, it's like always be willing to try. I'm going to put it, and I'm just going to remind myself in the morning to always be willing to try. I'm going to
Mhm.
remind myself to be you. So that goes to, you know, when did you or how did you reach this point? It's a process, you
Mhm.
know, like it's a process. And tomorrow I'll be better, and there'll be a process that I go through today. But what I'm excited about is resting. I'm excited about rest.
We all need rest.
You know,
Sometimes you just have to stop.
yeah.
I'm a huge self-care proponent. I'm a
Mm,
huge self-care proponent. And people like you and people like me, entrepreneurs at this
mm,
point, you work a lot harder being an
mm.
entrepreneur than you do in that 9 to 5, whatever it
You
is.
do.
And, and there'll be a whole lot of people who disagree with that statement, but, I did the 9 to 5 for 25 years.
Yeah.
um, so I'm a huge proponent, and sometimes you just have to put everything here, and you have to make sure that you're putting yourself ahead of everything else,
Mhm.
because we take care of a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we have to advocate and take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So in making ourselves a priority, we're then able to get back on the treadmill,
Yeah.
do the things that we want to do. Um, and I had a young friend the other day. We were talking about courage.
Mm.
I said, a lot of people feel like you have to be courageous to do something, to move forward courageously. I said, I really believe that you have to recognize that you're scared to death, and you
Mhm.
are making a very deliberate choice to
Mhm.
move through your fear.
Right.
So for me, courage is the absence of courage, and the total um, presence of fear, and moving
Mm.
through that fear to get to your next place. Because when we failure is a lesson.
Yeah.
It just means we weren't ready.
Mm.
But why weren't we ready? And in that failure, we learn what those things are.
Yeah.
And then we pick ourselves up, we look at that fear, and we move forward through what that fear is. Um,
Mm.
and you've done that over and over and over again.
Mm.
But look at the result of what that is.
Mm.
So tell everybody a little bit about the Phillip Show.
Sure. Yeah. So the Phillip Show is it's a place where people have the freedom and the opportunity to share. One of the things that I love to know that gives me inspiration, and I try to pull that out of all of my interactions is, how did you get from A to B? You know, we can see people that have been successful or that are successful, but the inspiration comes in, much like you said, it's like, what do you do when you're faced with that fear? What is the in spite of for you? You know, yes, I acknowledge that I'm terrified because of this particular thing, but in spite of that, move forward. So I have the opportunity to talk to people. They're entrepreneurs, they're authors, they're hosts, they're mothers, fathers, just brothers, whatever it is. And through each person's story, someone else is able to say, hey, that reminds me of me, or hey, there was a nugget in there that I can really use, or that really touched me. And I'm a firm believer that our stories just have the power to heal. Our stories have the power to brighten someone's day. Our stories have the power to give somebody the courage, the desire, and permission to say, hey, I'm going to go one more day. I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to push just a little bit harder. I'm going to and then tomorrow, we can do it all again. It'll get better the next day and the next day, you know. And I think that's where my show is. That's what I love about it. I always say that when I get on my show, I'm like, that's therapy for me. I'm listening and I'm asking the question because I want to know. You know, it's like, well, when people, okay, so here's a tip. Let me tell you. So if I'm on my show and I say, well, for people who are wondering, I hear you, but for those who may not understand, that's me. I'm they. You know, so I always want to know, and I want everybody else to learn too. But you know, tell me again, how did you do that? Why did you do that? And let me tell you another thing. My demographic of viewers is so diverse. And I love that. And I love I've been blessed to be able to travel a lot of different roads and have friends that are very diverse in a lot of different places, from pastors to stripper, you know, whatever. And I'm friends, and I have, and they have permission to speak into me. I have permission to speak into them. And we're all on this same place because we all want to be inspired to say, hey, one more time, let's get up. One more time, let's move forward. It doesn't matter if it's because you're in a business. It doesn't matter if you're a deaconess. You know, we had a hard day today. One more time. We're here to celebrate. Let's celebrate one more time. So, so that's really what the show is all about. You know, it's all about that.
Who's your go-to person? When
My
Phillip
brother.
is okay. So when Phillip is sitting and I don't know, I don't know how I feel about this, or I am having that negative self-talk day, because we have them. What does your brother do for you?
So my brother has been my biggest fan since we were born. And one of the things that I'm so fortunate to have, is the consistency of care. There has never been a time where my brother and my family, let me say it that way, has never cared for me. And that's not always a testimony. People who have gone through what I've gone through and who have put people through what I put people through, that they can say. My brother, he's a chaplain, he's a pastor, and he's a great speaker and has a huge heart. And he is able to speak life and to speak challenge. And the biggest thing he does is listen and know me. And that is huge, you know, because even throughout all of my, I don't know who I am, my brother does. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, wait, hold up, what now? What now? Or he'll see me fall down and be like, what's going on? So, I remember when I was in college, sidebar, I was pledging. I hadn't seen my brother in a long time because he was in the military. I was pledging, and allegedly, and you know how when that's a very interesting time and it's a very intense time. It takes up a lot of your emotion and energy and time, because there's a lot of things that you just want to make sure that you do and you fulfill your studies and the other expectations. So my brother was there. I hadn't seen him literally since before something. And he came to my school, and visited me. Mind you, I'm pledging at the time, and sometimes when you're pledging, you don't always get treated the best in
Mhm.
front of people. There can be moments where it can look very intense.
Mhm.
So my brother was helping me. There are things that I had to do. My Jason was like, "What do you need? What do you need?" I was like, "Can you please take this over here? Can you do this?" Ah, it was great. It was just so funny. So I won't go down that rabbit trail. But to your question, the person that would be my brother, and I have a really great. He always would say, "Get Team Phillip," and I have a really great team of people who care about me. And period, full stop. Full stop. And I likened, you're saying on this ride, I always think of my life as a roller coaster. Now I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, we talk about being single, all this. I'm like, wait, hold on. I just can't invite anybody on this roller coaster quite yet. Like give me give me a minute. But it's been like that. And I think I'm no different than a lot of people. But the friends and my circle who continue to pour into me today have done that throughout. And I'm just so fortunate that they ride with me until the wheels fall off, because they should have fallen off on that last curve over there.
Yeah. Yeah. I am I am happy to see that um, you know who Philip is.
Mm,
You accept who Philip is. You have a level of spirituality to you that
mm,
has been in you since you came out of the womb,
mm,
and you haven't turned your back on what that is.
mm,
Um, and at the core, you've always been somebody who wants to lend their talents to amplify and lift someone else
mm.
up. And so those are the things that I do know. And those are the things I have always known. And so it's great to see that you have finally decided to join the bandwagon. So thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Tell people how they can find the Philip Show.
Sure, yes. So the Phillip Show, you can go to phillipo'rourke.com or thephillipshow.com. You can always, and I'm a proud content creator with the Indie Style with Leah Devon TV network. That is huge. So that means that you can also find it on Roku, Vimeo, and Amazon. So if you go to any of those websites, make sure you download the app. Um, Go to YouTube, see about me. If you have any questions, I enjoy interacting. So for everybody out there in TV land, I enjoy interacting. If you have any questions, or if there's anything that I can help you with, it doesn't have to be marketing, it doesn't have to be business. If there's just something that you're like, hey, I have a question based on some of the things that I said today, please just reach out. We are not supposed to do this alone. And
Right.
stories should help to logically link, make connections with people that could be similar, and say, hey, that sounds familiar. Tell me about this. So if you heard anything, either with Patrice, with myself, just reach out. Reach out.
I love it. And I love you. So,
I love you back, Patrice. Thank you so much for having me here,
no, thank you
and
for being here
for
today.
huh?
I said, thank you for being here today.
Yes, yes. It's been a blessing. You're doing awesome.
So are you. Okay, guys, that's this. We're going to wrap this episode of Perspectives. And as always, your day is what you make it.
Mm.
So you choose to make your day a great day.